Like we're at 10 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started so that we can get everybody out on time. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. I'm Marcy Utakis with RLB, and I serve as the chair of the membership committee. And with me today is our co-chair, Lisa Folsom from Sunland Asphalt. Good morning, Lisa.
Morning.
Also with us is Carrie Kelly, Executive Director of AED, to help facilitate today's meeting. So welcome all to our 8th installment of AED's Member InFocus virtual series, where we conduct fun and informative interviews with Arizona's leading economic development practitioners.
For today's InFocus meeting, we've enabled your video so that we can all connect. But to ensure the quality of our audio, we please ask that all attendees place themselves on mute. If time permits at the end, we will take additional questions posted to the chat box. We will be keeping to our 30-minute time frame to get you all out on time today.
Okay, so Lisa and I will be your hosts today. And now it's my privilege to introduce one of Arizona's foremost economic developers, Heath Vescovi Chiordi from the town of Marana. Welcome, Heath.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you with us today. So to start, Heath, can you tell us a little bit about your current role with the town of Marana?
Yeah, for sure. So I used to be an economic development specialist here in the economic development department for the town of Marana. But about a year ago, just a little over a year ago, I actually made the switch from the economic development department to the town manager's office. I should say back to the town manager's office. So now I'm the assistant to the town manager. But because we have not hired anybody for my old position, because it is impossible to replace it, I still get to do economic development. So I still get to work with Kurt Woody on some of the economic development initiatives going on throughout the town. So now I'm straddling two very important departments for the town.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Heath. Now it's time to ask some questions about you to help us get to know you better. What is your best vacation and why?
I think my best vacation ever has to be when I went to Japan in 2014. So it was very brief. It was only 3 days and everything just lined up perfectly, actually. Like we flew out of LA. The day that we got there, it was like we had not lost any sleep whatsoever. So we were just ready to go. I was invited to go out there for a wedding, actually, for one of my friends who was a foreign exchange student at the U of A. The wedding was insanely intense. They had this amazing combination between the traditional Japanese Eastern style and the Western style. But the coolest thing was back at that time, we were playing a lot of beer pong, like a lot of beer pong. And the groom, set up our first international game of beer pong at his wedding reception. So it was me and my friend Brett and a couple of his friends. And we played the first international game of beer pong, and it was phenomenal. But also, obviously, the culture is crazy. Like, we went to Tokyo, we rode the Shinkansen, we did all these crazy things. And it was a huge culture shock because the advancement of technology is so crazy out there, but it was so much fun, and it was a huge whirlwind.
Wow, that does sound fun. What language do you play beer pong in? You don't need a language, do you?
So actually, funny enough, a couple of the Japanese people that we were playing with knew Spanish, and I know Spanish, so we actually talked in Spanish instead of English or Japanese, and that was crazy. And that wasn't the only time that happened on the trip, which was super strange.
Hysterical.
Go to Japan to speak Spanish. Got it.
A little bit.
All right, Heath. What was your favorite age growing up and why?
So I don't know if it's a cop-out or not, but I kind of want to say right now. So I'm still growing up a lot. Let's be real. Y'all know me. But it's weird right now. So like I'm 33. I just bought my own home, but I'm in that weird intersection of still being considered a young professional. So I can still, get away with being a little stupid every now and again. But at the same time, there's an intense amount of responsibility and freedom, so I have all the responsibility for work and obviously my home and all these types of things, but I still have the freedom to kind of go out and do whatever I want, whenever I want. I guess that's kind of the virtue of being an adult. So my mentality, I still feel like, is very young, but I feel like I'm getting up there in age. So I'm wondering how many gray hairs you actually have to qualify to just be a regular professional instead of a young professional. because I'm starting to get a little on the sides, and I think I'm ready to graduate. I don't know yet.
Good question.
Does anybody have a real answer for me too? Because it would help my career trajectory immensely.
50% gray, Heath. That's the answer.
That's terrible.
Us that aren't young professionals are not going to give you any secrets about not being a young professional. So we don't want to hear about it, Heath.
I need all the help growing up I can get. All right.
You'll know when it happens. Let's just say that.
Is it a feeling in your bones, would you say?
I would say.
It's when you stop getting carded when you go to buy alcohol. That's when.
Sure.
All right. So tell us something interesting about yourself that most of us don't know.
So I just alluded to it. So I can speak 4 different languages. Spanish has come in handy a lot, especially living in Arizona, Southern Arizona. It's been very helpful. And like I said, when I went to Japan, obviously I was playing beer pong, and 2 of them knew Spanish. And then we all used to play basketball a lot when we were at University of Arizona. And we randomly did a pickup game while we were in Japan. And another guy on the opposite team, who I had no idea who he was, and my friend in Japan didn't know who he was, spoke Spanish. And we started speaking Spanish, and we were on opposite teams. So we were basically, crap talking one another from across the court. It was me and this random Japanese guy. We had no idea. So that was super cool. And then aside from that, I can speak Italian pretty fluently. And I also can speak American Sign Language. And I learned American Sign Language because both my grandparents on my mother's side were deaf. So when we were like 2, my mom and my grandparents taught me sign language, which is very cool.
That is very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, so Heath, now we've reached the part of the interview where we get to learn a little bit about your work. So let's start with a few questions about your career.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit more about your current role and focus in economic development for the town of Marana.
Or
So
not economic development.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it was a little bit of a transition there, right? But really currently now it's about wrapping up all of the projects that I've been pursuing in economic development and kind of assisting Kurt, if he still needs anything every now and again. One of my favorite things that I've gotten to work on, and hopefully something that's coming to an end at some point, is me wrapping up this development agreement I have for our downtown area. That's something I've been working on for, seems like forever, if it's been a year at this particular point. My current duties in the manager's office oversees, basically all operations of the town. So I really get to lend out my talents to every single department at this point, which, to be perfectly honest, is not completely different than what I was doing in economic development. Kurt let me basically lend my talent out to every department, and everything I related back to economic development. So it was a huge learning experience for me. Now the same thing applies. I'm doing things for every department, and it ranges from any economic development stuff to figuring out whether or not we're going to increase our sales tax to fund critical infrastructure and staffing, and different things like that. So pretty wide berth of duties for me right now, and you got to keep your head on a swivel, honestly.
All right, well, Heath, what inspired you to pursue the career you have today?
Overall, so with city and town management, it's something I've always wanted to do. I started out when I was like 15. I think like every young kid, I was like, I want to be an astronaut and a firefighter. And then I was like, I want to be the president one day. And then that stuck with me conceptually, but then I got into local government politics and things like that. And I realized that a lot of the change that you can affect really comes from the local level. So I really started focusing on local, government, city and town management. The economic development component was just happenstance. The thing that, really made me passionate about getting into that, in all honesty, was Kurt. He taught me a ton. Again, it was like a trial by fire kind of thing. And I just fell into it, which I feel many economic developers do. They just fall into it because they don't really know it's a thing until they're like right in the middle of it. So in general, I've always wanted to do city and town management. Economic development was like a little detour in a certain way, but a very, very important one that's really helped kind of round out all of my skills when it comes to what it might look like for me to be a city or a town manager at some point. Or maybe an economic development director, maybe. Not Kurt's, not Kurt.
It's kind of like the way we come into business development. You just kind of fall into it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's true across the board, honestly.
So what would be the best advice you would give to somebody who just started an economic development career?
Sign up for AAD. That's number one, in all honesty, because I do feel like actively there's a burgeoning young professionals section, right? That's kind of coming up with some good ideas and figuring out how to give a lot of value to young professionals in economic development. I would also say find a mentor. Anybody within AAD can act as a really good mentor. If you're in economic development and you find somebody that's in business development as your mentor, the skills are transitive. You know, they certainly transfer from one skill set to the other, and vice versa. So if you're in business development as a new individual and you find someone in economic development, find somebody that is passionate about what they do and knowledgeable about how they do it, and also doesn't take themselves too seriously, because there's an aspect of the real person that you are kind of coming out in the way that you practice economic development. So I think those would be my pieces of advice off the top of my head.
Well said. Okay, tell us about a cool industry, a business, or an event within your community that we may not know about.
I always default to to our downtown because nobody knows we have a downtown. So when Marana was incorporated in 1977, and before that, our downtown in 1960 was literally the core of our entire town when it was incorporated. But the Interstate 10 legitimately paved right through it and basically destroyed it. So I think the project, or the thing that nobody knows about, is that we have this cool town core center area that's really like a center for civic engagement with our town hall. We have a Northwest Fire Administration building being built up here, as well as a healthcare facility and our police department. So it's like this civic area, and then it is directly connected to an area that's expanding with retail and restaurants and, you know, other dining and things like that. And so it's this kind of cool thing where you can work at the core and then take a 5-minute drive down to the main street, which literally was just completed, like physically completed, and go get a sandwich or something like that, and then be back to work in 5 minutes. We only have like one place you can eat, you know, but we're getting there.
Okay.
One day we'll be like downtown Tucson, and we'll have multiple options for everybody. And the cool thing about it is the core of this area, the North Marana area, is developing so quickly that I really do see a lot of potential for it to develop within a relatively soon time period. So.
Very nice. I lived in Marana for a while, but that was before all of that buildup had gone out there. So just to get to the grocery store, it took 25 minutes.
Yeah, it literally went from flatlands to just houses and houses and houses, and then they hired Kurt, and you started seeing businesses and businesses and businesses. So it's a nice.
Yeah. Yeah, living out there, you definitely didn't want to go beneath half a tank of gas, because it would take you that to go find a gas station. So.
I have to confess, when I first got my internship in Marana, I got to the municipal complex, and it was this brand new building. This was like 2009 or something, like maybe 2014. I forget what year it was. Anyway, and it was so nice. I was like, this is too nice for Marana, that place that I just drive through all the time to get to Phoenix. And I went in, and yeah, lo and behold, that was their municipal complex. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is a good place to work.
Oh, very nice. I'm excited to hear about the things going in there, because it's been a while since I lived there. So it's nice to see that it's actually growing and being sustainable.
Yeah.
So is there a special project or program that you're working on right now, or a current win, that really stands out to you?
I think there are two different ones that I really like to chat about. So again, with the downtown thing, but really one of my favorite things that I've been able to do as a result of practicing economic development in Marana is now teaching economic development at the U of A. Again, it came with a certain level of support from all of the leadership that is around in Marana, but I was given a really unique opportunity from the U of A to create an entire class that's dedicated to teaching economic development. I had gone through the Masters of Public Admin program, and they only referenced economic development once, and it certainly was just in passing. And then when I fell into it, I was like, this is a really cool field. It's like integral to the way that cities and towns run. And we're not being taught it in a public admin class or program, which is a huge oversight in my opinion. So 5 years ago, they let me take half of a class and then they gave me a full course. And so I'm in the 5th year now. And I literally just taught one yesterday on tourism, economic development. And it's just been very rewarding, you know, to teach younger people about economic development and how it can create a career for you and what the career track might look like and how you can kind of veer off and do other things in local and city government as well. So that's really fun. And that's, I think, my favorite project so far. It's tangential to practicing economic development, but still has a positive effect, I think, on the industry.
Okay, you said there were 2. Was there another?
You're gonna hear me talk about downtown, man. So this was really cool. The planning, my planning department back when I think 2 directors ago, and with Kurt's support and our town manager's support, we ended up creating this overlay district for our downtown that created a zoning style that we wanted to have a traditional look and feel for a downtown, something like you would see in downtown Tucson on Congress, right? So we went through this huge exercise, created this overlay district, and then we incorporated it into an existing incentive that we have, the Downtown Marana Reinvestment Fund. And then we did this thing where if you opt into this zoning, you're now eligible for public funds for public infrastructure projects that can basically, help increase or lower the bottom line of amount of money that you're, investing in bringing your business to the downtown area. So it acts as, I think, twofold, somewhat attraction, but it also kind of allows us to do public infrastructure projects that we've been wanting to do anyway. So I think it just helps kickstart development for something that everybody can take advantage of, which is public in nature.
So it helped you to bring new investment to the downtown area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we just have to work on the restaurants.
Yes, we certainly do. Hopefully we'll have another one soon.
All right. Good to hear. So now we're going to find out about how you like to do business.
So for companies that would like to do business with you or the town of Marana, how would we get started?
I don't think that there is an individual person at this town that you could contact and ask about starting a business and they wouldn't know where to direct you. And I think inevitably what's going to happen is whether or not you, for some reason, ask a frontline worker or myself or anybody else, they're going to direct you to one of 3 places. They'll either send you to our town manager's office to talk with an executive level staff person. They'll send you to economic development to talk directly with Kurt, the director, or they'll send you to development services to talk with our development services director, Jason Angel. And legitimately, you can't go wrong with any of them. I think it also depends on the stage of where you're at in the beginning process of starting your business. If it's brand new from the ground up and you're looking to locate, Kurt's going to be your best bet. He's got the index knowledge of all the land assets and where things are and what the zoning is and all that kind of stuff. And then he would essentially act as a liaison throughout the entire development process with development services. So that would be my recommendation. Can't go wrong with Kurt. I'll still try to help as much as I can, but if you contact me, I'm probably just going to send you to Kurt at some point.
So the next question is, if I want to meet with you, Heath, how do I go about it? You're just going to send me to Kurt.
Yeah,
I'll send you
to Kurt, and then Kurt will set up an appointment for us, and then we can meet. I think is how that'll happen. No, if you want to meet directly with me for anything, honestly, all you have to do is give me a call or send me an email or shoot me a text message. My phone number is available on all of the town's websites and everything. And in my email signature, it's got my cell phone as well as my office number. It even has like my social media in case you want to reach out through Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. There's so many different ways to get in contact with somebody. At this point, anything is fair game. I've had people hit me up through Facebook Messenger. People have contacted me through Twitter. So there's really no telling how people are gonna reach out. So anything's fair game.
Perfect. So now we get to the section where we're going to tell us a little bit about AAED. What roles do you have within AAED, and what is your favorite AAED event and why?
So I have multiple roles, and I have had multiple roles over the years. At one point, I was the vice chair for professional ed, and then I was the chair of professional ed. Currently, I sit on the board of directors, which has been a humbling experience, honestly. And most recently, I chair the Young Professionals Affinity Group. I don't believe it's a committee yet, but maybe we'll get to that one day. And those have all been really important because number one, making more information and more development opportunities possible for young professionals has always been something that's been close to my heart in general across the board. Serving on the board has been a development opportunity for me, and it's also been very invaluable to meet other board members and be able to kind of chat and discuss how those skills transfer to other aspects of my professional and personal development. So those have been really, really rewarding. And I think my favorite Aed event, I had a really good time at the cornhole event last time. That was a lot of fun, honestly. I also really enjoy our Southern Arizona luncheons. And I think that's because I'm in Southern Arizona, but they also, it just has such good programming and there are such good people here doing economic development that it's nice to get updated on what's happening right in your own backyard. And then kind of comparing and contrasting that to what's going on up in the Phoenix area, the northern area, and even further south than where we are right now. So I would say one of those two.
Perfect.
Look forward to getting back to those, right?
Yeah, certainly. I do want to have a semi-edible rubber chicken at a hotel someday while someone speaks to me from a podium. I honestly can't wait to get back to the in-person networking.
Ditto. All right. Well, let's check our time. We've got some time for questions. Lisa, how do we want to open it up for questions?
So if there are any questions that came in through the chat box, let's go ahead and address those first. Or if anybody would like to ask Heath any questions, can you drop your name in the chat box so that we can call on you to mute your mic?
Or if you just want to shout out, you can do that too.
Just yeah, totally.
Yeah. So let's see. All right, you guys, I know you have questions for Heath.
I do want to make a special note that a couple of my current students are in this event right now, which is super cool. So I really appreciate them showing up. And a couple of my past students are in here. So I really appreciate them for showing up also.
So extra
Yes.
credit for current students if they ask a question.
Put me in that kind of position, Lisa. You really
I
can't.
didn't say how much extra credit. You could just give them like a point. I don't know.
Just give them a wink and a nod.
High five when you see them.
So Heath, I have a quick question for you. With a change of administration, are there any imminent changes that you foresee in economic development in our state, or even just the way you work within your own municipality?
Which administration are you talking about? At the federal or?
Federal, yeah.
Because I was going to say, we recently just got a new town manager and a new council member, and that is kind of an administration change to a certain extent.
Okay.
So I don't think so. I don't think it's going to drastically change how things are done. Basically at the federal level, they provide tools for us to utilize, right? So I think just as always with any economic developer, you have to be aware of what the tools are that are being offered at the federal level and just be knowledgeable about them and how you can offer them in context to what you're trying to develop, what you're trying to attract, and essentially what your city or town is looking to do as part of your overall strategy. So I don't think you would see a significant change in it, at least in the practical part of it.
Okay, good to know. And then Carrie wants to know, what is your favorite economic development topic outside of downtowns?
That would be downtown incentives, Carrie. Thank you very much. I think financing. So I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's a technical part of economic development that I don't think is typically touted, but it is something that's very, very important. I have really enjoyed working here because I've gotten to see like several iterations of our incentive programs, and there might be an additional iteration of one of them coming up. And I think dealing with the financial aspect, creating the qualifications, but then also running it through your legal department to see what's legal and what's not is always fascinating, because you might have a whole host of things that you want to do and accomplish. And there are other departments that really need to be taken into serious consideration when you're figuring these things out. And then the final reconciliation is with your administration, and in our case, it's a town council, whether or not it makes sense. And if it does, they approve it and it's implemented. And if it doesn't, you're back to the drawing board and you have to draw something up again. So I've always found the incentive portion and financing portion pretty interesting.
Have you guys had any like real innovations or anything over the past through 2020 up till now as how you do your work within your town?
Within, like from an administrative standpoint, I wouldn't say so, because we've always been really open internally about cross-departmental collaboration. Within economic development, though, I think that there have been several things that we've done to kind of push things forward and be more externally viewable from, site selectors and for site selectors, I should say. So at one point, we created a brand new website. We redid everything. We rebranded ourselves as well with our incentives and things like that. And then we also contracted out with a third party to do this crazy asset inventory of all of our available land assets and building assets within the town. And that's been essential, I think, very, very helpful. It's called selectmiranda.com. And then one thing we did to go above and beyond that was we started using drone footage, right, to give real views of these land assets. And then we took it a step further, and Kurt's finishing this cool project of basically overlaying all of these important pieces of information on these drone flights. So you as a developer can get an idea about what's in the area, what the other assets surrounding you are, where your ingress and egress is and all that kind of stuff. And if you're close to an interstate or not, because those are all pretty important things for businesses that are looking to locate and come to your town.
Yeah, I guess in the absence of a lot of travel, that gives everybody pretty much what they need to see, essentially.
Yeah, it does. And I think everybody was forced to use Zoom, so that in and of itself was a significant change, but it's not like one day economic development in Marana was like, we should just use Zoom, it was just forced upon us. And I think that we're making the best of it, just like everybody else is.
Yeah. But I do think that it will allow us, for those folks that can't travel or have time commitments that don't allow them to travel, I think it's going to help us all.
Yeah.
Just keep the Zoom. We may not love it, but when we don't have to do it, I think it's going to be useful.
Yeah, it's definitely going to persist. That is for sure.
Okay. It looks like Amanda has a question.
I do. Hello. Hi. I was just wondering why you're so involved in the YP stuff and why, like, what about that, why it's important to you? Because you're all over the place with that.
Because I was once a young professional like you. No, legitimately, one of the issues was coming out of college, specifically my master's. I was really fortunate to have had an internship and then to keep my job there, and that's why I'm still here today. But that is not always the case for people. It's a difficult thing finding your first job right out of your master's. And so working with our town manager at the time, Gilbert Davidson, working with Kurt intermittently on some of these things, and then a few other, kind of external organizations, it really was about creating a path to make it possible for young professionals to find their job. So number one, I know the feeling of uncertainty. So eliminating that feeling as much as I can, I think, is really kind of why I do it. But it's also because I really want to see young professionals just thrive. And I know so many of them, and I know that they're so good that they have a place, and their place is in the workforce immediately so they can showcase their talents.
Okay, and here's the extra credit question coming from Robbie. Hi, Robbie. After the pandemic finally subsides, is the town of Marana considering or maybe adjusting some of their incentives to attract new businesses?
We are actually considering adjusting one of our incentives in the middle of the pandemic. So I think we're always looking at those incentives and thinking about whether or not they can be made better for attraction purposes. We might come up with new ones later on too. I think as a responsible economic development director like Kurt is, you're always reviewing those things to make sure that you're adequate, up to date, and also following what's happening from the legal perspective outside of your area. So Peoria, the case in Peoria was pretty interesting for the rest of us, and we followed that pretty closely. So.
Good question, Robbie. We'll figure out how much extra credit that's worth. Are there any other questions that I haven't seen? Oh wait, one more, Michael Jensen. Who won international beer pong, East or West?
That was a combination. So I was on my team, it was me and a Japanese guy. And then the other team was another Westerner and another Japanese guy. So my team did win though. So the better team did win. Thank you.
All right. We've really come to the end of the program here. So I want to thank you so much, Heath, for being our guest today. We definitely enjoyed spending time with you, getting to know you a little bit better and how you work. So don't forget, everybody, next time on April 15th, we will be interviewing Carla Moran from SRP.
Yep. And for those of you who are not already an AAD member, we have a diverse and engaged membership working to promote education, collaboration, and advocacy for responsible economic development in the state of Arizona. If you would like to learn more about AAD membership, please visit aad.com. I want to thank you all for your participation and have a wonderful day.
Thank you all so
Thanks, everybody.
much. Bye, Heath.
Bye.
Bye.